Veach clearly wants to build the roster around young talent and hasn't wanted to sign stopgap vets, is committing 100% to the plan, worth foregoing an older addition that may help in the short term. Does it make sense for this Chiefs team to quote unquote trust the process without exception? Connor, that's a lot. I'm going to dumb it down for myself and condense it a little bit.
Sure.
Should the Chiefs keep rolling with what they have in terms of young guys, or do they need to bring in a veteran somewhere or two before the season?
Yeah, you could definitely look at it like that. I also like to look at it as in they have a lot of young guys on defense. Do you want to sign a veteran who might take snaps away from that young guy
Yeah.
so they could get those reps as a rookie or even a second year player? Talking about like a player like Karlaftis or Trent McDuffie or Brian Cook. And it really depends on the level of player they bring in. We'll have a question about him later, but if it's a Dunlap versus Quinn, you're really juggling like who is either of those players? What snaps are you going to take? Is it going to be Karlaftis's or is it going to be Frank Clark's? I feel like at this point it would probably be more Frank Clark's because he's shown he can't really get through a season healthy recently. And he's also, I'm going to honestly guess, Jordan, that Karlaftis probably is going to be a more productive edge rusher than Frank Clark this year. So you wouldn't take off the younger, more productive edge rusher for somebody like Carlos Dunlap. So it's a very situational type of answer. So in the case of Karlaftis, I would be in favor of them basically making him the focal point of this season at edge. Let him play, let him grow. He has a great work ethic, so he'll do the best he can to get ready for that role. So I'm kind of okay with them committing to the young like defense plan they kind of have in place. They obviously brought in a few veterans at wide receivers, so I think they felt more like they needed those guys who've been around rather than rely on somebody like Sky Moore to step in day one and be a wide receiver 2 or 1. So I think it's just they're showing you a little bit about how they feel on each side. And honestly, Jordan, I've heard people speculate about this, and I kind of like it. It almost feels like Brett Veach has forced Steve Spagnuolo to play young players.
Yeah.
Because he's really shied away from doing it, aka Daniel Sorensen, Ben Neiman over like Willie Gay, Nick Bolton, and Juan Thornhill. Just because he's the heady players. He loves the heady players, and a rookie might not show the heady style that Steve Spagnuolo wants right out of the gate. But with the defensive roster he's been handed, I don't know if he has a choice. He kind of has to play George Karlaftis, Brian Cook, Nick Bolton, Willie Gay. So I kind of just like it in that sense.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. And on one hand, the Chiefs on offense don't really have a place for a veteran. I think they've either already done it or the depth chart is pretty much set, or at least the insulation is there already. They don't need it. Defensively, you look at the secondary, not much room there. The sheer investment makes it to where they can't do it. The linebacking core makes it to where they can't really do it. The interior defensive line, they don't really have a ton of room there. I guess you could make an argument. Really, there's only one position on this team where bringing in veterans makes sense, or a veteran, and it's edge. It's defensive end. If the Chiefs, I think trusting the process does work and probably will work. Maybe the Chiefs do see something in Kando. Maybe they do see something in Herring. It's risky. We've talked about it. With that said, it's a very, 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 very risky proposition to head into the season with. And Brett Veach has held up his bargain in adding some sort of talent to that room. He hasn't added a ton, though. George Karlaftis isn't going to single-handedly transform a group that contributed to 31 sacks last year and was 29th in the NFL. Like, the Chiefs do need to improve there. A veteran would help. We'll talk about veterans here in a minute. I think it would be a smart thing to do to sign a veteran. But with that said, on the flip side of that, if the Chiefs don't do it, I think Brett Veach throughout the past few years has earned the benefit of the doubt. And I don't think it's time to hit the panic button and think that this is going to cost the Chiefs a trip to the Super Bowl or something, like some people are saying in Check's watch or calendar. July of 2022.
Yeah, I mean, this process and doing this way or building the roster this way definitely has more risk involved. Like the Chiefs going into 2019, 2020, and 2021, I think there was less risk involved in just who they had on the roster. You had guys who are proven across the defense, especially at more levels. So going into the year with more young players and players who haven't been in the system, like Justin Reed, yeah, there's going to be more risk involved. And I think that's why everybody feels more apprehensive, especially with the fact that the Chiefs also traded away Tyreek Hill. But I wouldn't necessarily say that means the ceiling's lower. It's just that the range of outcomes are higher. So I don't mind them doing that because their coaching staff has proven to train up these guys, to coach up these guys. And especially Brett Veach's last two drafts, I feel like has really found a groove. So I would like them, like you said, to add one edge, and we'll talk about two of them later. But I think that's really the only place where you can go, well, what is the process here exactly?